If you're learning medical English, memorizing vocabulary is not enough. Patients don't say things like, I'm experiencing moderate fatigue. They say, I'm feeling run down, or I'm burnt out. In this lesson, I'll teach you 15 health-related idioms you'll actually hear in American healthcare. And I'll explain which ones you can use professionally and which you should avoid in documentation. Let's get started. Under the weather. This means feeling slightly sick. A patient might say, I've been feeling under the weather for a few days. This usually refers to something mild, like a cold, low energy, or fatigue. You would never document under the weather. You would write, patient reports mild fatigue, cold symptoms, or reports malaise. Have you ever heard this phrase before? Next is run down, meaning feeling very tired or lacking energy. For example, she said she's been feeling run down all week. This phrase is extremely common in outpatient settings. You might want to clarify what they mean. Are they not sleeping well? Are they anemic? It's very vague, so follow up. On the mend. This means recovering. For example, after starting antibiotics, he's on the mend. Both patients and nurses say this. It's appropriate to use in conversation, but not in charting. Back on your feet means fully functioning again. For example, our goal is to get you back on your feet before discharge. It's very common in rehab, post-op, and PT settings. This phrase communicates independence, culturally appropriate in the US. Bounce back. This means to recover quickly. For example, she really bounced back after surgery. It gives an encouraging tone, often used by staff and caregivers. But be careful not to minimize recovery time, especially for major procedures. Take a turn for the worse. This means a sudden clinical decline. For example, the patient took a turn for the worse overnight. You may hear this in shift report or from doctors. In documentation, describe the specific change. For example, hypotension, low oxygen, altered mental status. This is an important phrase to understand though. In good shape means healthy or stable. For example, her labs were good. She's in good shape. This is common when reassuring families. It's conversational English, not clinical terminology. Fit as a fiddle means extremely healthy. For example, he's 80 and he's fit as a fiddle. It sounds slightly older and more British, but you may still hear this. Avoid using it with patients in serious conditions. It's informal. Go under the knife. This means to have surgery. For example, he's going under the knife tomorrow. It's more common in the media or casual conversations. In clinical settings, say, have surgery or have the procedure. But you may still hear this from patients. Touch and go means very unstable or uncertain survival. For example, I was touch and go in the ICU. Families may use this after critical illness. This is emotionally charged language. Use carefully. Alive and kicking. Still active and doing well. For example, after last year's heart attack, he's alive and kicking. It's positive but informal. Americans often use optimistic expressions when discussing surgery. A bitter pill to swallow means a difficult truth to accept. For example, being told to quit smoking is a bitter pill to swallow. It's often used when describing lifestyle changes. It acknowledges emotional resistance without confrontation. A wake-up call means a serious warning. For example, his diagnosis was a wake-up call. Common after heart attacks, diabetes diagnoses, or near-miss events. This phrase suggests personal responsibility and change. Burn the candle at both ends means overworking and not resting. For example, I was burning the candle at both ends in nursing school. It's a slightly older phrase, but still understood. It's often used to describe self-neglect. Burnout means emotional and physical exhaustion from chronic stress. For example, many nurses experience burnout after years in high-stress units. It's extremely relevant in modern healthcare. Burnout is more than tiredness. It involves emotional detachment and decreased performance. Have you ever experienced burnout? Let me know in the comments. Understanding idioms is not about sounding cute. It's about understanding culture, what the patient actually means, and knowing when informal language is appropriate and when it isn't. Some of these phrases are common in conversation, some are media-driven, and some are slightly older but still used. As a nurse, knowing the difference helps you communicate effectively and confidently. If you're preparing for OET or planning to work in the US, this kind of language awareness will make a big difference. Comment below, which idioms surprised you the most, and which expressions do you use in your country? And subscribe to Fluent Nurse for more realistic medical English lessons. See you next time.